Hi guys, it is Ron with Nine Fingers Trucking, and it's sometime in the morning. Rolled out of bed, haven't done anything with my hair. Um, it is January 3rd, I believe, and I'm in my basement, sitting on the couch, feeling a little lazy, and I just wanted to kind of catch everybody up with what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, um, and just throw some thoughts out there and maybe a little encouragement for the guys that are running. So what's going on with me? Why am I sitting in my basement? You guys have never seen this fine wood paneling before. Well, it's because I am not on the road right now. I have not been on the road since about mid-October. Okay, why haven't you been on the road since mid-October? Well, because I got discouraged. Quite honestly, I got discouraged. Well, Ron, why are you getting discouraged? Well, I got discouraged because I'm just picking stuff off a blanket here. Because I used to run 2,500, 2,800 miles a week, something along those lines, and I would gross a solid 8,500. Okay, that's what I was doing, and it encouraged me enough to go out and buy the 22 F450 and a new trailer, and things were going well. And then 23 hit. And you can blame it on whatever you want to blame. 23 came and the rates started going down. Okay? Just started going down. And instead of doing 8 grand, I started doing 7, 6.5. And I went, well, I need to do a little bit more. So I started picking up my miles. So I went from doing 2,800 miles a week to doing about 3,200 miles a week. I was running 600 miles a day, 5.5 days a week. Okay, so 3,300 miles a week. And that kept me up around 7 grand. And if you do the math, that's about $2 a mile. Okay, because it's a little bit better than $2 a mile. Those are all miles. That's all the deadhead and things like that. And I was still okay. Well, then it went down to 6.5. Then it went down to 6,000, and then I had like two $5,500 weeks in a row, running 3,200 miles plus or minus a little bit. And I'm like, I'm doing $1.80, $1.90 a mile, all miles, and it just got discouraging. And I went, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I kind of had a little, pity party type thing, and said, screw it, I'm going home. And I did. And my wife's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Okay. And so, grossing $1.85, $1.90 mile just wasn't that encouraging, to me. And I let it get into my head, and like I said, screw it. So I went and I decided to fall back and do mechanics. And I was just going to work out of my garage. I was going to buy, used cars that needed work, fix them up and sell them. I had done, a reasonable amount of market research, and I was going to be able to buy these vehicles, like GMC Acadias and things like that with the 3.6 liter. You can buy them 2010 with 150, 180,000 miles. Yeah, that's a lot of miles, but they still look great. They would still drive well. But I'd buy them needing timing chains, or maybe they had a rod knock or something like that. And I'd pick them up for $1,200 plus or minus a little bit, and a timing chain kit. It's not even $200, and so you put few other things in it, maybe $300 in parts. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll have $1,500 in these things, and they're selling with this miles running all day long for $4,500. I could make some money. So I started doing that, and found out that they had other issues, and it ended up being, well, I got to yank the engine out, and I got to put in a reman crank, or I got to have the crank machine and things like that. And that's still not that big of a deal because parts were still under about $750. So I'm like, okay, I pick them up for 12, and I have 750. Maybe I'll have 2 grand into this car. Still sell them for $4,500 because that's what they were going for. You'd see them posted, for 5 grand, and they'd sell 4 grand, 4,500. I'm like, okay, well. Keep in mind, I ran till October. One of the things I didn't realize once I started getting into this and tooling up and doing what I need and collecting some cars is I didn't try selling my first car for over a month. It was coming into December. And I did. I sold that one. That was a 2015. And I had, I think, 4 grand into that one. And I sold it for 6. Made 2 grand. It was beautiful. Okay? But then December came. And all of a sudden the prices started going down, and I got a lot of tire kickers. And I watched the price of these things being listed for 5.5 down to 5, 4.5, 4, 3.5 now. It's January 2nd, and cars, the same make, model, everything, same condition that were going for 4.5, 5,000 are now being listed for 32. Okay. Well, I can't live off that little bit, not realistically. So that screwed me. I've been offered jobs. I was offered jobs, $38 and $48 an hour type thing. Okay, so let's call it an average about 45. Well, $45 an hour, that's pretty damn good. Okay, but it was as an independent contractor, which means I'm paying all the taxes and I'm taking the liability. That 45 goes down to about 38. Okay, which 38 is about $76,000 a year on a full-time job. Well, Ron, that's really good. Yes, except I still have a truck payment on my 22 F450 and a trailer payment on my 22 Craftsman trailer to the tune of about $2,200 a month. Well, that's at 2,000, that's 24,000 a year, and another 26, it's almost 27,000, $27,000. Well, you got to take that off the 75. That brings me down to 50. 50 grand's not enough to live in Chicago. 50 grand doesn't cover. So where am I right now? So it took a little time to step back and figure out what I need to do. So let's run some real numbers and find out, is there money in trucking? So let's say I decide to bite the bullet and I go back into it, all right? And I'm running my truck that averages about 9 miles to the gallon. It's loaded, unloaded, blah, 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 blah. It's not deleted or anything yet, although it might be going on a diet here soon because I'm having some issues, and I really don't want to pay $3,500 for a new exhaust that I'm going to have to clean or replace again in another 100, 200,000 miles. It might go on a diet, we'll see. But let's say 9 miles to the gallon, 3,000 miles a week, that's 350 gallons. Let's say fuel is still up around $4. It's less than that right now in Wisconsin. I saw it was $2.80. Fantastic. But let's just say it's still at $4. That's $1,250 a week in fuel. So 4 weeks, you're looking at $5 grand. Okay, so there's $5 grand there. $2,200 for my truck and trailer payment, so that's $772. Phone bill's about $300, so that puts me up to about $75. Okay, you have insurance, that's $1,085. Maintenance, $95. Large breakdown fund, that's $10.5. Subscriptions, you're talking load board, Netflix, Hulu, anything else that you have for subscriptions, and they stupid things add up, probably another $500. So what are we at? 12.5, something like that. I don't know if I got insurance in there. That's $1 grand. 13, 14. You've got tolls. That's $1 grand. 15. Miscellaneous crap. 16,000. So let's say there's $16,000 of overhead. Okay, just back in napkin math, and I hopefully overreached a little bit. It should be less than that. Well, 16,000 in overhead. Okay, if I'm doing $6 grand a week gross, minus that's 24,000 minus the 16, that's $8 grand. Okay, if I do that 10 months out of the year, realistically, that's $80,000. And I don't have a payment or anything, like, whatever. So I could work 10 months out of the year, make $20,000, $25,000 more, and have all my payments taken care of. So please don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed the actual job. I enjoyed the job of trucking, of driving, of seeing the different places, of seeing the people. Did it get monotonous at time? Of course it did. But quite honestly, I like cruising up and down 80 through Ohio. You set the cruise control at 67 miles an hour, you put on an audio book, and, all of a sudden 4 hours has gone by, and you're like, holy crap, it was a nice story, nothing's gone on. The days would go by fairly quickly. And, the reason I got off is because I let the rates that are currently out there just get me discouraged. I have a couple gentlemen that I talk to a lot, Art out in Washington, but then there's David, who was in Texas. Now he's in Louisiana living near his grandbabies. Well, he's not, the wife is. He's on the road. He's out there 2-3 weeks at a time with his dog, and just having a good old time out there. Now he's still a rookie. He's been doing it, well, God, he's been doing it almost 6 months now, I think. And talking to him, he doesn't try to get home every weekend. He's out there 2-3 weeks at a time. That guy out there, because he's not trying to go home, he is kind of chasing the dollars. He's doing, I think he said 8.5 gross, type thing. Might have been 9, because he's not worried about getting to one particular place. And I think that's where my sort of mistake, came in. I locked myself into that Pennsylvania load, and yeah, it paid about 240 a mile. Now 240 a mile, but it grossed. It was usually $3,000, 3,200, that type of thing, because it was from Pennsylvania to Duluth, Minnesota. That's a lot of miles. It was 1,500 miles. Whatever it is, 1,400. So the miles added up. It was also multiple stops, tarps, things like that. But I got good at it. My average stop for most places was under a half hour. That's untarp the load, get their stuff off there, retarp it, and get rolling. There's one place that, all right, I'm going to be here for an hour and a half because this guy was freaking slow, and it pissed me off every time. For a while, then it's like, okay, whatever, but just pathetically slow. But anyway, I would pick that load up on Friday, and by generally Monday evening, it was off my trailer, if not, Tuesday morning, and then I could pick up the next one and go. The problem is I had to work my way back to Pennsylvania. And generally speaking, I would get there Thursday during the day. Well, you can't make any money in a day in Pennsylvania where I was going, because, I would end up in, New York, or, Virginia, or Pennsylvania, or whatever. And because I had to be at a certain place at a certain time, I didn't have time to go anywhere. Or even if there was a load, by the time I deadheaded to it, did the load, deadheaded back, I wasn't making any money. So I would end up only working until Thursday, taking Thursday to Friday off at a truck stop somewhere, and then going back. So I was losing a day of revenue taking this load. Well, that day, that's $1,000, of sitting there of gross revenue, if not more. It would have taken my gross numbers from 6 to 7. Okay. So how am I going to do this moving forward? What is my plan? My plan, now that I've done having my pity party, is this. Number one, I'm going back to Mexico. I'm going back. I'm going to Cozumel. I'm going to live on somebody's couch or their floor, whatever they give me. I'm going to go scuba diving, hopefully a lot, taking video underwater, trying to earn my keep, video the tourists and stuff. And I'm going to have a good time. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to get back in the truck. However, I'm going to lease on with somebody else. Okay, I'm going to lease on with a national carrier. That's my plan. Can I keep my authority and keep going? Yeah, I absolutely can. But I'm going to try leasing on with this other carrier. I've watched their webinar before. I've got another one coming up, tomorrow, just to kind of refresh and get some new numbers. But the numbers that they were talking about after they take their cut, okay, they take a big cut. But who cares? They could take 90%. If what's left over is still more than I'm making on my own, what do I care? Okay. So they're taking a big cut. It's like it's 30% or something along those lines, plus or minus a few percent. But after that cut, and by the way, it doesn't include insurance. After that cut, the rate per mile, all in or whatever they were averaging, was still 40, 50 cents a mile more than I could do on my own, or was doing on my own. Well, hold on a second. If I'm doing, let's say, 3,000 miles for easy numbers, times 40 cents, that's $1,200 a week. Okay, that's almost $5,000. $4 to $5,000 a month. 10 months out of the year, that's $40,000 or $50,000. Okay, well, I still have to pay insurance to them. Okay, but insurance, because they are a big carrier, it's not actually insurance; they're self-insured. So I want to say it was like $4,000 or $5,000 a year. Okay, so paying a percentage to someone else might net me an extra $40,000 or $50,000 a year. Why not? Why not? So that's what I'm leaning towards. So I'm going to Mexico in a week and a half here. I'm leaving on the 13th. It's January 3rd right now. I'm done having my little crybaby party. My wife's letting me go off and go to work a couple thousand miles south of here for a month. I'll be back mid-January, January 10th or 13th, or February 13th. And then I will try to get in with that other company. I'm not going to start the process until I get back, other than maybe a phone call or two and let them know I'm coming. And go from there. So anyway, it's kind of a longer video, and hopefully, most people have probably turned it off way long ago. But those, four people that are actually watching to hear, um, it's a long way around of saying, hey, listen, if you still manage everything properly, can you make an okay or decent living, doing this? Yeah, absolutely can. Is it a sacrifice being away from home? Yes, it is. But, my wife works full time, more than full time. She's working 10-hour days right now because they kind of need her to, and she's okay with it. So she comes home, she's up for about an hour, she goes to bed. I barely see her anyway. Kids are doing things, girls at college. So what am I doing? Even if I'm home every night, I'm not doing anything other than watching TV. I might as well be out making more money. Um, 80 to $100,000 a year. That's a pretty decent job. Of a net income. Then you got to take your 15% off of that for your profit and a few other things. But you're still looking at 85. Take home. That's not bad. In the Chicagoland area, that's not bad. If you live in a different state with a much lower cost of living, you can still earn exactly the same as if you lived over somewhere expensive, because you're in a truck and you can drive wherever you want to make your money. So if you're from a lower cost state, or even if it's expensive but there's no jobs and the jobs are only paying 50 grand or 60 grand a year, if you can do the investment and go out there and earn 80 to 100, that is a substantial increase in your pay coming in. But if you're gonna do this, just be smart. Do say no to cheap freight, okay? But also realize that you're not a semi, unless you are a semi. And if you are getting into this and you're thinking non-CDL, I'm going to tell you right now, get your CDL. And if you are getting into it and you have your CDL and you need to go out and buy a truck, why don't you go buy a semi, okay? Oh, because they're so much more expensive. No, they're not. They're not, okay? Now, are there anomalies out there? Have I seen people go broke trying to fix their semi? Yeah, but usually it's because they don't have a good shop or they buy a lemon. Well, that's why you go to Ryder right now and you pay $32,000 for a 3 or 4 year old truck with 400,000 miles on it. You get the $12,000 warranty. A $12,000 warranty is a bumper to bumper warranty for 300 miles, 3 years, 300,000 miles. So now you've got $44,000, $45,000 tied up in a semi. You go out and spend another $15,000 on a trailer, so now you got 60 grand. Okay, that's a lot better than spending $80,000 on a pickup truck and $20,000 on a trailer, having 100 grand on something that's going to depreciate like that can take less than half, and it's going to make 40% less than a semi, 30% less than a semi. Flatbed semis I'm talking about. Dry van, hot shots are apples to apples. Dry van doesn't make any money, basically. But anyway, that's just a long way of me saying, hey guys, I haven't died or anything like that. I'm still here. Feel free to ask me questions. All those calls have stopped, and I guess I'm done blabbering. So, as always, be safe, have fun, and in about 3 months, 2-3 months from now, maybe I'll see you on the road. So enjoy. Feel free to hit me up. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.